The HOA had always been a problem, but I never thought they'd go this far. I'd lived by the lake for years, my quiet escape from the noise and the city. I had restored the old reservoir with my own hands, turning a lifeless swamp into clear water, filled with fish and life again. It wasn't just a lake. It was my peace. Then one morning, everything changed. The smell hit me first, sulfur, sharp and unnatural. When I stepped outside, the air burned my nose. I ran to the edge of the lake and froze. The water, once crystal blue, was now a sickly yellow-green. Dead fish floated near the surface. Even the grass by the bank had started to turn brown. Someone had poisoned my lake. I called the county's environmental department. They took samples and confirmed it. Toxic chemicals, probably from industrial waste or pesticide runoff. But that didn't make sense. There were no factories nearby, no farms large enough to cause this. Then one of the inspectors said quietly, "We've seen this before. Sometimes it's intentional." Intentional. That word stuck in my head. Who would poison a private reservoir? The answer came that evening when I saw a few people from the HOA gathered by the fence, whispering and pointing toward my property. The same HOA that had been trying to buy my land for years, because the lake bordered their future waterfront project. They'd offered me money before. I refused. I told them the lake was staying natural. No resorts, no boat docks, no hotels. And now, they were smiling while my fish floated dead. The next morning, they had the nerve to send me a letter claiming the lake's pollution was now a community hazard and that they were requesting access to help restore it. In reality, they wanted control. They wanted the shoreline. I didn't respond. I started collecting my own evidence, photos, water samples, even a few security camera clips. That's when I noticed something strange. A few nights before the poisoning, a maintenance truck had parked near the far side of the fence for almost 2 hours. No one ever asked for permission. When I enhanced the footage, I could clearly see the HOA's logo on the door. They did it. I hired a lawyer, a friend of mine from a county sheriff's office who had seen enough HOA corruption to last a lifetime. We filed an injunction to stop them from touching the lake and reported the poisoning to the state environmental agency. The HOA didn't back down. They fought harder. Suddenly, I was getting fines in the mail for unapproved landscaping and unsafe water containment. They even called the police one day, claiming I was hoarding hazardous waste. When the officers arrived, I showed them my reports and the state's response letter. They looked embarrassed. They knew exactly what was going on, but couldn't act until the investigation was complete. Weeks passed. The lake slowly began to heal. I brought in aerators, filtered water through natural reeds, and spent every morning by the shore, checking the pH and oxygen levels. But the HOA wasn't done. They built a temporary fence right up against my property line, blocking my access to the main road. When I complained, they said it was for safety reasons while they inspected the area. I had to park half a mile away and walk home each day. I felt trapped, but not beaten. Late one night, while reviewing the HOA's public records, I found something interesting, a construction permit request. They had submitted plans to build 42 resort-style cabins along the lakeside, using my property as part of their access zone. They had already approved themselves before even owning the land. That's when I decided to play their game differently. Instead of stopping their construction, I waited. I let them bring in the trucks, pour concrete, and erect steel frames. I took photos of everything, recorded dates, contractor names, and equipment logs. By the time the main structure was up, I walked into the county courthouse with my lawyer and the original deed, showing the property line extended 10 feet past where they were building. The judge didn't even take long. One look at the deed and construction maps, and he ordered an immediate stop work notice. But that was just the beginning. The HOA thought I'd give up after the stop work order. They were wrong. The county inspectors came the next morning, armed with measuring tapes, documents, and court authorization. When they confirmed that nearly half of the new resort cabins stood on my property, the construction site went silent. Workers packed up, foremen argued on their phones, and HOA board members showed up pretending to clarify a misunderstanding. I stood there watching, calm and quiet, while the inspector marked the boundary line with bright orange paint. Every mark cut through their new concrete like a warning. You built on the wrong side. The HOA president, a man named Clark, approached me with his fake smile. "Look, we can fix this," he said. "Maybe we buy that section from you. Fair price." I looked him in the eye. "You poisoned my lake. You built on my land. You'll fix nothing. You'll pay for everything." He laughed nervously. "You can't prove that." That's when my lawyer handed him the folder. Copies of the water test results, photos of the HOA truck, and the state's investigation summary linking the chemicals to their maintenance supplies. Clark's face turned pale. 2 weeks later, the lawsuit was official. Property invasion, environmental damage, and fraud. They tried to settle quietly, but I refused. The court case stretched for months. Every hearing revealed more: misused HOA funds, fake maintenance invoices, and secret deals with developers. By the time it was over, the board had collapsed under its own corruption. The verdict came on a hot summer afternoon. The judge ruled entirely in my favor. The HOA had to demolish all illegal construction on my land. They were ordered to pay full environmental restoration costs. And most satisfying of all, I was granted exclusive control over the entire lakefront, including what used to be their access zone. They had lost everything they'd tried to steal. When the demolition began, I sat by the lake and watched the excavators tear down those shiny cabins one by one. The sound of breaking wood and shattering glass was almost like music. What they built to profit from, they now had to destroy with their own money. By autumn, the land was clear again. The water had returned to its natural blue, and the air smelled clean for the first time in months. Fish returned, birds circled overhead, and the grass started to grow back. One afternoon, a few old neighbors stopped by. They told me they'd always admired what I did for the lake, how it brought peace to the area, but they were afraid to speak against the HOA. Now, they wanted to help maintain it, to make it a real community spot again. So we did. We built wooden benches, planted reeds, and set up a small sign that read, "The Old Lake, Restored and Protected." I still remember the day the county sheriff came by. He smiled and said, "You know, not many people take on an HOA and win." I smiled back. "They called the cops on me once for parking in my own driveway. Guess it's full circle now." He laughed. "Yeah, but this time you're the one with the keys." As the sun went down, the water shimmered like glass, reflecting the orange sky. The smell of clean air, the quiet ripple of fish, and the distant sound of crickets made everything feel whole again. For months, I'd lived in anger and frustration, fighting against greed and lies. But standing there, I realized something. I hadn't just won a case. I'd reclaimed my peace. The HOA had built 42 cabins on my land, thinking they could bully and buy their way into my world. Instead, they ended up paying to restore it for me. And now, every time I walk by that water, I don't see their destruction anymore. I see justice. I see home.